cover the solds. I'm going to show you the association database of sold roofing companies. And then we're going to remove the listings that had real estate included because it throws off the ratio. And I'm going to include the smaller grossing businesses because that throws off the ratio. And I'm going to try and whittle it down from the 40 solds from 21 years, from about 900 agents over the years, and teams of people working with those agents like myself. We're going to try and whittle it down to the most similar that I'm able to identify at the moment that are most like yours based on the information that we're advertising. Between the sales, gross sales, the industry, which is roofing, and the adjusted net, which is, again, not this number, it's this number, 4.8 for one owner. So let's just keep in mind what we're trying to compare it to. That is our subject property. Our subject property is the business that we're trying to sell. What is the BBF? The BBF is an association of talented guys that specialize in business brokerage. I have sold residential. I've been doing this since 1989, so of course I've sold residential. But I love businesses. I love working with business owners, specifically business sellers in construction. That happens to be my niche. We're 21 years old. We have 24,427 solds. But each one of these pages is a different family selling a different business, buying a different business. But we're pulling from a database of 24,427 solds. We want to find roofing. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to look at active listings because nobody cares what somebody wants for their business. We only care about the comparables, the comps, what actually sold. That's really the only relevant number here. I'm going to say all counties because we only had 40 and there's 67 counties. It's too small of a group to be narrowing too small. Here are the categories of businesses that are legal that we can sell. There are subcategories. As you can see, we have a category and then a subcategory, category and then subcategories. But we're going to get rid of the other 24,400 or whatever. We're trying to get down to those 40 that I already know about that are strictly in roofing. But I just want to show you how detailed this is and how exact I know it is. It takes out a lot of the marketing. Most businesses that list, even with a professional, never sell. Majority, I would say 75-80% don't sell. Why? Because they're underdocumented, they're overpriced, the owner is not educated, the agent doesn't have the market share. There are so many reasons why these businesses don't sell, and then the owners and agents get frustrated. But we're going to be smarter than that. We're going to look at the facts, we're going to look at the numbers, and then you make a decision as where we need to be to get in and out, not hang out at the market like we talked about. I don't recommend hanging out at all. Construction is here. The subcategory that we're looking for is roofing. So I'm going to go from 24,000 plus down to 40. Watch how I do this. I submit selection. I'm not putting dates in here. You can see we have date windows. You can see I have maximum selling price. Nothing. I just want to see the whole class. Also, was it provable on the tax return, provable on the P&L, provable annualized, owner to prove, owner estimate. Is it a projection? There's different ways we're going to look at it, but I don't want to narrow it down any further. I just want to see all of them. So here we go. Here's 40. 40 solds from 21 years in Florida. Here is how we figure what your business may actually sell for. Here's the earnings. Here are the sales. I sorted this by sales because it's easy because there are no numbers or addresses on here. I got to open each one individually. I'm not going to compare a $15 million gross business to a $200,000 grossing business. I'm going to be getting rid of all of these little guys. And I'm not going to be comparing profits of $50,000 to $5 million, obviously. In addition, because I already did the work, I went through here, I identified about 5 or 6 that have real estate, which we don't have, which makes it a non-comparable. Because we're only selling the assets of the business, meaning the trucks, the furniture. We're not selling real estate, which is a big ticket item that make the assets so high. Like this guy has real estate involved, this guy. They have real estate. That's why the assets are so high. So when you look at the sold price, it's not based only on the profits anymore. It's the real estate and the profits make up the sold price. So the ratio gets thrown off. Let me show you what I mean. When we come over here and we see one-time earnings, this is sold price to seller's discretionary earnings. 1.2, 1.7, 90% of a year. And then you come down to, let's say, this guy who took 500 days on the market, which I strongly recommend not doing, or this guy at 538 days on the market, or this guy, he was only worth 500. I got him 525, but his earnings were 386. It took him a year, 3 years. This one was 4,000 days on the market to get 3 years earnings. When people start high to come down to the reasonable number because they weren't really serious or educated, that's what happens here, the days on the market. You're going to want to not be at the average. You're going to want to be lower than the average. Let's just look at the average of all 40. If we took all of these into consideration, you're at 1.9 times earnings, which is high because there's real estate buried in here, which ups this number to 3.6, 4.2, any of these anomalies, the 4.7, it's real estate and the business. So if there's 3, 4, 500,000 in additional assets, they add that to the 2 times earnings that it would normally be, or 1.5 times earnings it would normally be, and they're saying, I want the building in the package as well. So I have to go through, which I already did, and I guess I could do it even more. There might be 1 or 2 hiding in here with real estate. But you can see, even with the real estate included, and we are not including real estate, it's 1.9 times earnings. Right now, we're asking 4.21 times earnings, one owner's earnings. If you take that 4.8 by the asking price, it's 4.2. None of them, this is a real estate play, I'm going to remove this in just a minute, but none of them sell for 4.2. So that's how I know 20 million is never going to happen. We can hang out on the market. The average is 465 days. The reasonably priced people that did their homework got sold quicker when they have a competent agent and the marketing is correct, the financials are provable, the tax returns are there, which ours aren't. It's a deficit. The high average is 1.29. Now, I go in and I remove, let's just look at this, just to prove it. The 4.28, watch this. I'm going to show this to you. 210 in assets. Roofing company, Orlando, 80% residential, 20% well-known. Asking price includes 5.5 acres of industrial property with buildings, including a house with an office. And they had good books and they had good records with strong assets. So this is not a comparable. First of all, the earnings are at 50. It's sold for 210. But without the building and without the land, it wouldn't have been 210. The assets would have been much lower, which would have changed the ratio. What I'm going to do, as we go through these, I'm just going to remove it. And just by removing that one, watch what happens to the 1.92. It goes down to 1.87. And we're still asking 4.21, and we don't have tax returns, which cuts out the majority of the market that want to go for an SBA loan. But I'm not done. That was number one. Then I went to the other one that said 2.60. I had to remove that one. Let me show it to you before I remove it. This happened in 2016. 28 years of success. I know we brag about the 16 years, but this guy was 28 years, so it's not uncommon. Shingle, metal, repairs, commercial. Here's the earnings, 157 earnings. The assets were here. Again, it's a small business. I should be removing it just on that. Many gated communities, perfect time, established payroll, great books and records. We don't really have great books and records because that means tax returns. And that'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix that for the multiple years for a bank. Perfect and existing company, take it possible. Real estate included. So automatically that gets removed. That was the 2.6. That one gets removed. Now watch what happens. The 1.87, watch what happens. Down payment of 75 cents on a dollar. We are currently asking all cash. So we're asking all cash at 4.2 times earnings, which we're high on both accounts, and we're underdocumented. So they're going to ding you for the document. So here, I remove that one. It brings it down to 1.85, 75% down payment. That's reasonable. Then I go down to the 2.95 one. That's on my notes. 2.95. It's high. Why is it high? There's real estate included. 800,000 worth of assets to make 600. Very profitable. Palm Beach, hurricanes, 33 years, honesty and reliability. You're 16 years. I know that's a lot of time. You did a great job, but their guys double, more than double. Included in the sale are the trucks, equipment, run the business. One of the most established, respected roofing, long time, not typical roofing, no dirty warehouse, owner's warehouse, which sits on the grounds. Warehouse looks more like a showroom. Equipment, perfect. Outside, inside, should qualify, must be prepared. I'm going to be removing that one. That's the 2.95. 2.95, removing it. We have 2.82. You see, when you remove the real estate, the average for the business, we're trying to exclude the real estate people and get to what the value of the business is. And I still have to remove the small guys. 74 cents on a dollar. Down payment, which I think is reasonable. Less is even better. It's easier for more people to afford it, and they might give you a little higher ratio. It took a year on the market. I don't recommend sitting on the market for a year. That's just my view on it. Here, let me remove this one. 3.72. I'm going to show it to you. 310. Watch this. Here, real estate valued at 750 is also included. Purchase includes real estate. 30 years, my friend. 16 is a long time, but 30 is even longer. Business has staff of 30 people, salespeople, marketer. Business has dedicated office, warehouse, dumpster. Seller is looking to retire. And this was recent. This was May. Here we are. They were making 900 on sales of 5 million. It sold for 3.5, but 750 worth of real estate. So I got to remove that one because that's screwing up my averages here. I know this is a long-winded way of doing it, but if I don't show it to you, we're not going to get the same results. We came down to 1.77, 74% down payment, right? Rent was about 1.5% on average, which is very low. That's great. And almost a year on the market. One more. We got this big boy over here, 4.7. You can't get 4.7. Here's why. One of the largest roofing companies in Central Florida, over 100. That's similar to you. Management will stay in place. Mostly handles resorts and theme parks. That is dissimilar to yours. And the assets are 1.3 million. Sales were only 7. So you could do the math on that. It's also a lower margin than where you are. I'm going to disqualify this 4.73 because the assets are so high and it's an anomaly. 4.73. They don't. None of them sell for that, and it's resorts that kicks up the average. I would assume that there's contracts, big contracts. When we remove that outlier, you come down to 1.68. There's another one over here. I did it by price. This one over here. This one had 650,000. Turnkey, very profitable. Soared in 04. This sold in 05, by the way. So time frame wise, it's different. It includes 1 acre and 6,000 building included. So the assets were higher, so they figured the assets plus the business, the ratio, it's over 2 years' earnings. We're still at 4.21. This one had real estate. That one's got to go too, because the real estate throws it off. When I take that one out, it goes down to 1.66. I've got one more to remove, 4.7 million. This one right here. Why am I removing that one? I'm removing it 40 years. 16 again is a wonderful number. We can talk about 16 all day long. Company served, Manatee, Sarasota. You want to be in Sarasota. Office building lot. Office building and one lot. Estimated 200,000. So of this, so you'd have to take the sales price, remove 200. So it really sold for 1.6 and then readjust the ratio of the 944 by 1.6 because they're telling you 200 in land, which we're not including. Very profitable. It's easier just to remove it because the valuation, this might not be correct. It might be worth 250 or 150, or did they have an appraisal? And what is it worth today? You know, all those variables come into it. Owner has 40 years, ready to retire, will stay in agreement. Okay, so this one's got to go. So this had 4.77. So if I remove that one, watch the number, 1.66. We go down to 1.65. A year on the market, 75 cents on a dollar. I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to get rid of these smaller guys by sales. Let's say $1 million or more and earnings. Let's see what that looks like. $1 million in sales or more. Remember this number, 1.65, 75 cents down payment. 1.77, but if I get rid of the smaller earnings, I don't want to compare you to businesses making 300,000 or 100,000. So here, I'm going to get rid of this guy, going to get rid of that guy, get rid of the 300s. So now we got an 800, we've got a 1.1, you've got a 700, you got a 2 million, and you got a 5 million. This is very comparable to yours right here. And that sold for 1.3 times earnings. And I don't know how you get a negative days on market. Let's see what happens when I get rid of the smaller guys. It goes to 1.92. 6 months on the market, 75% on down payment, 73. So in conclusion, I'm seeing 1.6 to 1.9. What I was saying before is 1.5 to 2 times earnings, but that's general. Now I could be a little bit more specific with you, and I could say 1.6 to 1.9 times the number that we're working with is 4.8. We're asking an extra $10 million. If we correct the price to be within range for the non-real estate, larger roofing companies that have sold, you should expect 6 months on the market. You should expect not to get all cash. We should not advertise for all cash. I would go as low on a down payment as you can to make it as attractive to as most people as you can and make it look like a good deal. You'll still get your money. You'll still have a lien. And you don't need the cash from what I saw on the balance. So make it more, if you don't want to lower the price to where it needs to be or to exactly where it should be, at least lower the down payment. That'll open up the marketplace also. And I recommend on the high end, you should be at 1.2 or 2 years earnings max. I should really look at this 3 one more time, because if this is an outlier, it's going to throw off all my numbers. Let me just do that with you real quick. It's a big number. First of all, incredibly profitable residential and commercial installations. They work company also. Okay. The majority of the customers include home, commercial, strong referral from real estate professionals, including realtors, title companies. There's $364,000 worth of assets. So I'm going to leave that in. It's a high number, but none of them, as you can see, are 4.21 times earnings. This is the anomaly on the high end. This is the anomaly on the low end. If we got rid of the high and we got rid of the low, which some guys would do, let's see what that comes out to. 1.75. Bam. That should be your number. 1.75. You got the best 3 that are most like. You got rid of the high one, got rid of the low one. This guy was on the market for 676 days, an average over a year, 88% down payment. I would go for a 50% down payment. I would go for 1.75 of this number and get in, get out of the market. Don't expose yourself unnecessarily. That would be my recommendation. I don't see 20 million. I don't see how we get to 4.2 times adjusted net of last year. And we don't have tax returns. So that gets rid of the financing. Now we're dealing all cash and seller financing. So I need the seller financing, and we need certified numbers. All right, guys. I know it's long-winded, but it's detailed. It took me 33 years to figure all this out. I want you to be on the market as short as possible. Unnecessary exposure can cause harm, and we don't want that. So these are my best 3 that I can find for you. I think 1.75, bam. We should have a lot more prospects, a lot more showings. You'll get contracts. We'll find that cash buyer, maybe 50% down payment, quicker, 60, 70% down payment. But let's offer an attractive number. That's my opinion. The longer we take to adjust it, the more days we're going to sit on the market. Thank you. Bye-bye.